But this is James Bond who lives a life of violence, and it bruises the gin. That's what it's all
Excuse
about.
me, I'm a bartender.
I know, that's why.
And what it does is melt the ice. Whereas if you stir it, it's a stronger drink because there's not the ice.
And
is
it's a
not
purer
melted.
form,
See,
which is what
it does, it
it
octopusifies the ice, the drink.
Is it my turn yet?
Does
In
what?
my
It
interpretation,
octopusifies the drink.
you know, I'm gonna clap. Hold on.
Okay.
We're back.
We're back. We're having a good time here. Okay. So now we're going to you, Bob.
Okay. My picture is called The Sound of 007. I was thinking it was
Yep.
okay.
Sound.
And this is it's a documentary on that's we're going to see after we watch this clip.
At least you caught it early, Bob.
For years, we would pretend to write Bond songs because it was such a dream of ours. Bond music is the most iconic thing on the planet.
It's been in our lives for as long as we can remember. You're in the womb, what do you hear? The heartbeat and the Bond theme.
The horns, the guitar, they were so evocative of that era. Bond wouldn't be Bond without that.
We went in the studio, recorded it. There are certain recordings where you just know there was some kind of magic that day.
We got these incredible images and this incredible music.
It became a universe of its own.
The songs tend to have an emotional backbone for the film.
They're like a perfume in the air. They promise you that your heart will be broken, and you can't wait for them to break your heart.
The fight to do a Bond song is as big as the fight to be cast as Bond.
It's the dream gig to get.
I mean, I would have said anything to get a foot in the door.
I was so excited.
There's just no time to die.
I said, okay, send me the book round. That afternoon, I wrote the song.
I just got goose pimples.
He was an absolute dream to work with.
Bond has more to do with our culture than people will ever admit. He's been with us for 60 years now.
Nobody does it better.
We actually make people quite happy sometimes with this noise we make.
There's just no time to die.
Yeah, okay, so the film is called The Sound of 007, and it's basically tracing the history of all of the music that's been used in the James Bond movies since the very beginning. John Barry, to me, is like my favorite film composer. I think the guy is just amazing, and he really did it through the first, something like 10 movies. In fact, I have some John Barry albums that I have in my car radio that I play all the time, because you just listen. If you take it away from the plots of the movies, you just play the music. It's gorgeous. It's just like great classical music, and that's not even my favorite of his film scores. That goes to Somewhere in Time, which is like magnificent. Anyway, I like the music in the James Bond movies. I'll watch this. It's on Netflix, and I just couldn't turn it off. I just was like, it just kept the songs kept reminding me of so much, and even the James Bond theme, which was written by a fellow named Monty Norman. It's iconic, but they talk about this in the film about how it just didn't really work, that it needed something. So there's been a whole back and forth thing for a long time about who actually wrote it. Monty Norman always gets the credit. John Barry, I think, for a while was claiming that he wrote it, and what they have in here is that Norman wrote it, but Barry arranged it, the one that we know that goes with the point of view from inside the barrel of the gun, and then the guy getting shot and the red blood filter coming up. I mean, it's just like one of the most iconic images in film history. And all the different people that we've seen play James Bond, all well and good, but all of the different people who have said, I want to get on board this train. Because I forget when when Barry died, but I think it was long before he died that he stopped composing the music for the James
Yes.
Bond movies, because it got into the commerce of music, which is like, we want to get the latest big stars. So you'll have like Paul McCartney, Carly Simon, Billie Eilish most recently, Adele, this fellow Sam Smith. I'm not that familiar with him, but it's like, let's get somebody big to do the song because it's gonna be a hit no matter what it is, because it's from the latest James Bond movie. For a long time, if somebody said, "What's your favorite James Bond movie? What's your favorite Star Trek movie?" I just say, "What am I watching now?" Because they're all exactly the same. There is no qualitative difference to me between any episode of Star Trek and the films, or any of the James Bond movies. They always, they go back to the same thing. So it has to do with like, who do they have to play the villain? Because that's going to be what sells it. What's the latest thing with James Bond? I mean, they're in the most recent one, No Time to Die, which Daniel Craig has very publicly said, this is the last James Bond movie I'm doing. They tease you with who's going to be next as the next James Bond. There was like talk of Idris Elba, who's a fine actor, but as somebody pointed out, well, if James Bond's in Moscow, they're going to say, "Hey, who's that guy of color over there?"
That was Trevor Noah.
Yeah,
I remember.
The woke people.
Well, spies are supposed to be unnoticeable.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, so and what happened in the most recent one is they cheated a little bit. They said, okay, he's retired, so we've got a new 007, and the new 007 is a black woman.
You can't do that. It's a white man. That's what it's written as.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and I hate to say this because I don't like to be this harsh, but the actress was just not interesting enough. And maybe the part wasn't that interesting enough. And the thing is, they did have, and also, why is it got to be the new James Bond? What's wrong with Jane Bond? I mean, you know what's going on. You know what you're getting in for.
Because how it's written is a white guy. That's what it is.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And if you get into
a white English guy.
Yes, right.
Well, not only that, but I became a James Bond fanatic early on, like this was during the Kennedy era, and like James Bond got put on the map because JFK loved the James Bond books. And the James Bond of that era, those books are incredibly racist. There's one
sexist.
Well, sexist, of course.
Because everybody was.
Sexist is such a given, but I mean, there's one. I think it was.
I'm surprised it was English, right?
Huh?
English?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Ian Fleming's a British writer.
Ian Fleming. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Ian Fleming was obviously a bit of a racist too, because there's the Felix Leiter, who is the character who's the CIA agent who pops up throughout. And he's the American counterpoint to James Bond, who has been played by so many different actors. I mean, he's been played by more different actors than James Bond has.
Yes.
And some of the time they've been actors of color, some of the time not. Sometimes they've been old guys. The first one was Jack Lord.
Jack Lord, I remember. The first one.
And Dr. No.
Right.
And was it Jeffrey Wright who played it?
Jeffrey Wright has been in the last couple of movies, yeah.
To me, you should, whoever, and I say this for anything, stop looking at somebody's ethnicity first and just go for who's best, or even their gender.
Yeah.
Whoever is best for the role, the part.
But especially in things that have already been established.
I just want to finish making this particular point on this, and that is that I think it's in Live and Let Die, which is like one that takes place in the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
James Bond, and this is in the book. James Bond is in a fist fight with these guys, these black guys, and Felix Leiter is standing on the side saying, "Don't hit them above the forehead; they can't feel it."
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean that's the level of it.
Where would be ahead?
Exactly.
Where would that be?
Is this the director or the actual?
This is what Ian Fleming wrote.
In the movie.
Oh. No, not in the movie.
In the book.
They wouldn't have put that in the movie.
Novel.
In the novel.
Okay.
In the original novel. So it's like that. All that stuff is problematic. However,
it doesn't. Even
there
make
hasn't been a
sense.
bad James Bond song.
I can only remember so many.
Well, which one? What would you say is a bad James Bond song?
I think they pointed out Octopussy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Well, I don't even remember what was it, but no, that was like an all-time high. Actually, I thought that was a pretty cool song.
Yeah.
Everybody has different tastes.
But nobody had to sing Octopussy in it. It was just like, it was all-time high. And I think that's the one
In
that
fact,
Carly Simon
that's
did.
what I think I was mentioning to you that see a lot of the songs like I
don't
hardly
remember.
I thought that was
Yeah.
Jack White and
Yeah, the White Stripes.
Alicia Keys.
Oh,
Yeah,
Alicia Keys.
I thought their song they said that it wasn't that.
See, I
wasn't
don't even know
great.
that.
I don't even
But
remember
like I
that.
said, I have not watched the last 4 Bond films or so, so I don't know what the music. I just know you're right. The songs are iconic, so
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong. And Shirley Bassey, as you see in this film, really set that level.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Goldfinger
Goldfinger's
is the
like- she set the
obvious
bar.
standard.
Yeah.
For,
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, it's great to have her in the movie too, because the stuff that she's saying, talking about, like doing it, is just so wonderful. And I know that my wife at one point was working at this restaurant, as a waitress at a restaurant in New York that was around the corner from Carnegie Hall, and Shirley Bassey was going to be playing at Carnegie Hall. And I remember the guy who was the maitre d' of the restaurant saying, we're going to have a big gay crowd. The gay people love Shirley Bassey. And I was thinking, why do the gay people love Shirley Bassey so much? It's like Judy Garland or something like that.
Why?
And watching this, I saw it's because she has that sort of overly dramatic,
Flamboyant?
like
Yes, overly
almost
dramatic.
a caricature of
Yeah.
women, and the way she does it, and then with her gestures and all this stuff like that. And she's great. I mean, she had a great voice. I mean, Shirley Bassey.
But
is
it is.
terrific.
She's perfect for a gay guy crowd, especially. You know, over dramatic. You know, everything's like
She's a drag queen.
tense. Yes.
Well, it even got
She's
to be
got
like
the pipes to back it up.
Oh, she's got pipes.
Yeah.
you know, Louis Armstrong did, for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We have All the Time in the World, which I think is one of the best songs of all of the
great song.
Bond songs, and it was so perfect to have him do it, because he just, his version of that song is so wonderful. And in the latest James Bond movie, the No Time to Die, they really make use of that. They every time somebody says, "Well, let's do something," okay, no, we've got all the time in the world. So if you know the plot of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, you know what's coming at the beginning of the new James Bond movie. And I mean, they do it at least 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, at least 3 times. We have all the time in the world. I think later on it's used as a tagline at the end of the movie, but it's like. It's just like, okay, they're slamming you with it, but in the meantime, if you just listen to the music and forget everything else, and especially with the John Barry stuff, it is so beautiful that I just put this movie on. I said, I'll watch it for a little bit. And I couldn't tear myself away from it. And then having all the other people, it's not everybody who has done a James Bond song is not in this talking about like doing a James Bond song. But
Right.
they may have shots of them. Like, I don't think Paul McCartney shows up and says anything.
Yeah, he does.
Did he
Yeah.
actually come
Oh,
in?
yeah.
This guy, Sam Smith, like I said, I don't know. He might have been in there and I just missed it.
A real fast clip.
But what they're showing, I mean, like at with the latest one that Billie Eilish does the music for, they're talking about how her voice is used throughout the movie, that she's doing a lot of vocalizing and stuff. Well, I didn't care for this movie when I saw it. And I went and I said, well, now that I've seen this, I got to go watch that movie again. And I did. And I said, you know what? It still stinks. And she sings the song at the beginning and I hear her singing at the end, but I only heard like one spot where they're using her voice, and I was listening for it for the whole movie. So I don't know what that was all about, if it was just a thing to push Billie Eilish or what.
It felt like that. It felt like that.
Oh,
to
yeah, I
me.
have that
So what do
kind
you
of
like
that too.
to?
Yeah.
Well, I like you. The whole Billie Eilish thing, it was like probably one of the least memorable songs for me, right, in the movie.
Right.
And it won an Oscar.
There you go. But who am I? What do I know?
It means nothing.
Right. So for Bond fans, this will be a really interesting sojourn through the music that's really that Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of songs that I didn't even know were Bond songs, like the Carly Simon song. I didn't know that was.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
actually.
I didn't watch a lot of Bond movies. Of course, I watched Goldfinger, right? And I know Shirley Bassey, and that to me, I like those power singers, and that's why I'm not really much of a. It's not that Billie Eilish probably could be a power singer. She has a nice tone. But she has, to me, she doesn't do anything that.
Tom
I mean,
Jones
that,
is the only
She's
other
good.
power
those
singer
songs
now.
she does demands.
That's why he's Tom Jonas
those-
cojones.
It doesn't demand that kind of singing. So From Sean Connery to Daniel Craig, the history of the James Bond franchise is told in this really behind-the-scenes bio of the music. I was really excited. John Barry is like amazing. That's where, to me, is like the Bond music is. So let's see. There's some really interesting stuff in there too, like stories you don't know, like Shirley Bassey hated Moonraker. She never performed that in her shows. There was Tina Turner, Tom Jones, right? Shirley Bassey interviews with John Barry, the guy that started the 007 sound. I mean, he actually kind of set what you think of.
That's
as
what we're gonna say.
You know, how producer Harry Saltzman wanted Paul McCartney replaced, even though he wrote the song. They didn't want him as the vocalist. Right? I mean, there was lots of great
goes,
stuff.
the song goes too.
And what's her name? You know that British singer. What's her name?
Lulu?
No, she died.
Amy Winehouse.
And
That's
she
the
was
second
she was interviewed in this.
Man,
They had the interview with her. She was being interviewed to sing. She never did.
She would have
but
been perfect.
I would have loved
She
to
would have
hear
been
that
perfect
one,
for this.
right? I would love to have heard her. Really informative. The music is great. They released it on October 5th because that is the anniversary of the first James Bond film.
Wow.
The Dr. No.
But I'm sorry. To me, James Bond is David Niven.
Casino Royale. Huh?
Didn't even play it solo.
He was the first James Bond.
But no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
First of all, the first James Bond was Barry Nelson because they did Casino Royale
Not the Pink Panther.
on TV.
That's before me.
But the first James Bond on screen.
The first James
Sean
Bond
Connery.
I ever saw was.
But
David
he's not
Niven.
the only. David Niven's not the only James Bond in that movie.
I don't
Woody
care.
Allen's also James Bond.
He's little Jimmy Bond.
He's little Jimmy Bond. But I mean, I agree with you. Except that that's the thing. The key to James Bond to me is the vodka martini, shaken not stirred.
No, see, to me, the thing about
Well,
James
I'm saying
Bond
like,
is
to me, he's a diamond in the rough.
He is. No, I think James Bond is so cool.
But
he's
a thug.
He's a spy, and so he's very British. He's not like an American thug. He's like a British one. He's like he doesn't do things unless he needs to do them, and then he's got this whole tool basket he can use, but he never shows it up front. He's just always like suave.
Okay, so why is it that a vodka martini, should be stirred and not shaken?
Okay, because you're not going to melt the ice.
Right.
It's going to be stronger.
You're going to bruise the gin.
It's gonna be stronger.
Well, you're going to be stronger. It's going to be stronger if
and
you
pure
yeah.
and more and very.
But
pure.
that's the
shake
thing.
it,
It's like
going to melt the ice.
But this is James Bond who lives a life of violence, and it bruises the gin. That's what it's all
Excuse
about.
me, I'm a bartender.
I know, that's why.
And what it does is melt the ice. Whereas if you stir it, it's a stronger drink because there's not the ice.
And
is
it's a
not
purer
melted.
form,
See,
which is what
it does,
saying
it
about 007.
octopusifies the ice, the drink.
Is it my turn yet? In my
What?
interpretation,
It octopusifies the drink.
you know, all my life, and maybe because I'm a musician, I'm always watching movies, and I'm always listening for the music because to me it makes or breaks a movie. You know what I mean? And then sometimes I'll want to see how good a movie really is. I'll turn off the sound so that you get no influence by the music. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of bad movies out there that are great. But 007 is the high standard for the music is even more iconic than Bond. Except for maybe Sean
Yeah,
Connery.
I agree with you. What you mean. I say Steven.
That's a good point.
Steven Stapler. What's his name?
And I got to tell you,
Beast.
especially when they start changing them a lot. I mean, I know Sean Connery couldn't be in all of them, but
The Saint.
or him
Roger
and Daniel
Moore.
Craig. Those to me are the true Bonds. All the
Daniel
rest
Craig?
are just
Yeah, I think Daniel
because
Craig.
he's
You like
closer.
Daniel
Oh
Craig?
God.
He's closer to the original character.
No, he isn't.
Yeah, he is.
He could almost be American.
No, but he's not. But he's actually closer to how it's written. Bond is than
I
any of the
would
others.
say of all those guys, like the one that I mean, James Bond is so iconic. I mean, Sean Connery is so iconic in that part. He's not necessarily the best James Bond, but he set the standard. I actually liked Timothy Dalton. I thought was a really good James
Actually, it
Bond.
wasn't bad.
I did like Timothy
Who's
Dalton
the
as
same,
well.
George?
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
Yeah.
That was
Roger Moore.
my-
I never
that-
even wanted to see the movies with Roger Moore.
That was
Roger
my
Moore
introduction
is
to
to
James
me
Bond.
James
80s, Roger Moore.
Well, I
He's
understand
very
that.
British.
But
No,
by the
because
time-
but he really brought that gravitas. He
Yes.
really brought humor, which is what I
Wait a minute,
claim that-
gravitas or humor?
both what to James Bond's character.
Well, but
and
it's
so the
very
thing
English.
is, that's what sort of what I didn't like about it. Because all of a sudden, it's like I was taking James Bond seriously. Then with
Right.
Roger Moore, there's always that sort of wink
Right.
every
Yeah.
time he did things.
Because
so.
he's very
And it
suave,
changed-
and
it
to me,
changed
it's very
everything.
English.
Well, you know what?
They have
Actually,
a great
no.
sense of
and it
humor.
changed. It changed. You're right.
And he's kind of as stiff as an actor too.
Oh no, I thought he did very well with what he had to do.
Oh, but actually, my favorite James Bond was Hugh Grant. Oh no, he never did it.
Yeah, I agree.
But he could have. You know why? Because
Agree.
he fit the
He
two
would've
things.
been
Perfect.
Yeah, I
Hugh
think he
Grant
would be
would have
good.
been great. It's somebody
After
British.
Sean Connery, like you said, they started changing the Bond so much. The Bond did not become important because he was like,
Yeah, it became more about the villains.
Right.
and
Exactly,
just like
I agree.
the Martini, it became more shook because it was watered down until, for me, Daniel Craig. But getting back to the music of it,
Daniel.
Yeah.
well, read the books.
Is he even English?
Yes,
Yes.
he is.
I know
He
he
is.
is English, but is he even English?
Well, you know
He's
what?
like an American.
He's probably
to the-
also the best actor who's ever
Oh,
done
I
it.
don't care.
I
But you know what's a
think
great
so.
role for him? Knives Out. Great role.
What?
Getting back to this, getting back to this movie.
Sounds
Knives
like
Hello,
007.
Knives
hello.
Out. My accent's coming out. Knives. Okay, back to
Okay,
the
back to the
Knives Out.
movie.
Yes, let's go
Boy,
later.
we're
It's a
drifting.
comedy.
Okay, the only two movies I mean the songs I remember for all the Bond movies, because I like Bond movies, is Goldfinger and Live and Let Die for the songs themselves. Shirley Bassey started off, they should all be power singers. Sorry, I think they all should be. Or have powerful songs with power singers.
Yeah, I agree.
Because she set the standard. The thing that's so great about the music, and it truly is beautiful music. It's intense, and to me, it represents what Bond is feeling more than thinking. It's more because you really never see what he's feeling. You only get this facade that in front of you. But everybody should be intense, just like the music and the movie, and fit the music. And it needs power
Well,
singers.
see, and that's why I think All the Time in the World is the perfect song because it's different from all the others.
Which one?
And we have All the Time in the World, which is from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah.
And that's a melancholy movie.
Yeah.
And it really is, and it's
very much so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually, if you take away all the other stuff, it's one of the best made movies of the Bond
It's
series.
literally the love story of James Bond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
So yeah.
And then it's so much so that they repeat it at the beginning of No Time to Die.
Well, they got to kill him off somehow, right? But anyway, but it's gotten watered down. So I think the martini has been shook.
Well, the more the music industry has gotten into it, the more it becomes about the song.
I
the
think
song
the
made
songs
the
are
movie.
fantastic. It's as far as the music goes, the music is a legacy in its own. You don't even it stands alone even without the
Yeah,
movies.
it-
it's like
yeah,
it's got
absolutely.
It's number
great
one and then
music.
Bond.
Well, I think that it does with the John Barry stuff. After
Oh,
that,
John Barry is my favorite.
yeah,
Yes.
and after that, I don't think
Most
that
people's
the orchestral music does stand alone as much.
Well, I was going to say it reminds me of like what a great singer and what a great orchestrator can do for a song. It
Yeah.
can take a ordinary song and take it to a whole nother level. And I think that's what they did every time.
Well, they
Well,
create,
It's
No, go
Lon's
ahead,
turn.
well, but the jumper, he's to set the template. He created the actual theme of
Right.
the Bond movie. And
no, that was Monty Norman.
all right. But
no,
then,
the orchestration
but-
of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
yes, the arrangement.
right. But then
That
you have,
sound. Dun,
but,
dun,
but
dun,
and then you have the
dun, dun.
theme to the movie, and then you have the song to the movie,
Right.
which changes, based on the artist. And
That's
the,
true.
And they people incorporate the song to the movie into the movie, without just do like a classical
Right,
arrangement,
exactly.
an arrangement based on the songs of the movie.
But I
and I
think-
wonder if you know. Oh,
I'm gonna say, doesn't it always start with that that kind of good?
yeah, but that's
thing?
that's
Like-
the thing.
That's it.
That's what
But
you say
the
about
thing.
the
John
Monty
Barry.
Norman thing.
Yeah,
That's
but I
John
was
Barry.
wondering if now movies there's a category Oscars for best movie song, and I wonder if James Bond started the whole thing about what there was a song from some artist.
That
for a movie.
started with From Russia with Love was the first time. There was a guy named Matt
So-
Monro who was like a sort of a British imitation Sinatra type guy. sang that.
So James
And
Bond
Goldfinger.
So James Bond created the concept of the movie song that was gonna.
Well,
be
they
nominated for
did
Oscar.
with Goldfinger. I mean, they'd had this pretty song at the end of From Russia with Love. It was From Russia with Love
Right.
with his accent. But then when they put Shirley Bassey together with John Barry and Goldfinger, that's when it
Magic.
became
Right. It was magic.
over the top. And one of the interesting things about the movie was they talked about how Monty Norman wrote the score for Dr. No. John Barry wasn't involved in that. He wrote the score for it, and he said like it takes place in Jamaica, or I'm going to go down there, get a feel for it. And that's why they have that song like "Underneath the Mango Tree,"
Right.
and all those kinds of songs. With the guys like walking along, and it's really kind of goofy. And I remember, of course, I bought the albums every time any of these things came out. Through Thunderball anyway. But they said, it's just not like he wrote that melody, but they said it just doesn't have the zip we need for to open the movie, because we want this to sting, and boy, does that opening thing. I mean, they've used it in every one of the films since then, and that's because of John Barry's arrangement of it.
Right.
Absolutely.
He punched it up apparently.
You're sure
Meanwhile,
Juan.
Monty Norman has done some. He wrote.
I keep saying it, Juan.
Monty Norman wrote the score for one of my favorite British movies called Espresso Bongo. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen that, yeah.
That's a really
Cliff
terrific,
Richards.
very funny satire of the music industry in the 50s. And I think it was originally done as a play, but it was with Lawrence
Espresso
Harvey
Bongo.
and Cliff Richard were the
Oh my God,
main
I
characters in the
remember him.
movie. Yeah.
Cliff Richards. But have you spoken yet?
No, he hasn't.
Is that still?
I think there's
Well,
still
I mean, wait a minute. First of all, Patty, are you finished?
I was finished a long time ago. Espresso Bongo?
How many people have gone so far?
So basically, it's like, okay, if you like Bond films and you enjoy the music, this is a documentary for you. I haven't watched the last Bond film I've seen is Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig, and the last Daniel Craig movie I watched. So I don't know the recent songs. I know like the three of them, right? 3 of them have won Oscars since then, if I'm not mistaken,
so, yeah.
right? Like the Billie Eilish, I didn't even know she sang the song for the latest one. That was the last one, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So my thing was like, okay, but they do look at the history because you're right. The one thing I always thought John Barry did write the Bond theme.
It's actually so
So
dumb.
when that Monty Norman name came up, it's like, and then to find that song, that music actually has lyrics to it was another sort of bizarre thing to me.
Oh, I didn't really. I never.
He sings it. He says, no, it's a song. And
Who sings it?
Monty Norman does when he's being interviewed.
Oh, no.
He actually
Oh,
sings
I
it
have to
like
watch that
dun,
again.
dun, dun, dun. And it's like, oh, how funny.
Oh,
So
right, yes.
I like the fact that when they say, yeah, John Barry just really punched it up. It's
Yeah.
like,
Good
okay,
way of putting it.
because I agree that is such an iconic movie theme, period. That is one of the greatest movie themes in history that, like you said, that will all, you hear notes, people say, oh, that's from James Bond.
Right.
And when
Around the world, not just in
Yeah,
America
right,
or Britain,
on,
around the
a
world.
John Barry album where he's doing the James Bond suite, that music is included in there as part of like John
Because
Barry.
for me, it's like, okay, the actual soundtracks really don't, I can't tell if it's good or bad because one, they start off with a theme. And I think, I don't know who said this. I think you did. And George mentioned how they take a song that comes from that and then they orchestrate it throughout the movie.
Right.
You know, like Goldfinger, you hear a little instrumental versions of that throughout the movie,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's the thing. So to me, it's like, okay, they took a song. Now, I do agree that Goldfinger really is the epitome of a Bond song. That one is, again, that's just as iconic. When you say James Bond, you say, okay, song, almost anyone would pick Goldfinger, in my opinion. Now, with the younger...
Except George.
Well,
Yes.
okay, we'll get
Well,
to it. We'll get to it.
with the younger generations, right? So that's one thing. Now, another thing I thought was interesting was the fact that how many people wanted to sing a Bond song. It was a real...
That's
it's
a
like,
big deal.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I got picked to do the new Bond song, right? that was something that interested me because I thought, oh, how funny. Because even somebody like Duran Duran, because see, the only reason I know that song, View to a Kill, is because I thought, oh, wow, Grace Jones. They got Grace Jones and Christopher Walken to be in this movie as the villains. How can it be bad? Right. One of the worst Bond films I've ever seen, right? But I do remember the song, View to a Kill. I said, it's a Duran Duran song, and it's a nice, good poppy song, right? Yeah. So I thought that's what it was for me, that James Bond songs were incorporating what was, and they sort of talk about it, how it changes over the years, because they really want to reach what's popular. So when you start with that jazzy kind of stuff, with the things like Thunderball or even big bandish kind of sounds, Goldfinger, then when they mention how Live and Let Die, oh, we got to get more rock. So they did that. Now, since Live and Let Die, the songs after that are the ones that really sort of I didn't really think much of.
Because they went away from the originality.
No, with the exception of Nobody Does It Better by Carly Simon. Because that was a pop song and that was a hit, right?
God.
But the thing is, what I remember, the only reason I really like that song is because the way that movie opened.
Yeah.
That was such a great ski chase scene. Boom. Right. He jumps out the cliff. You see, what is it? The Union Jack flag. And
is that The Spy Who Loved Me? Then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then boom, it breaks right into
that to me is the most boring of any of the James Bond movies I ever saw.
The one I like was The Spy Who...
Oh, well, see, that's what I was saying. To me, it was actually, I actually liked that because it was my introduction not only to, to that kind of, that opening. I thought that was such a spectacular opening. And then, of course, Barbara Bach being, to me, truly one of the most memorable Bond girls. Since we talk about Bond, I talk more about the Bond girls.
Yeah. So that's another movie.
You know what? My favorite one was The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Exactly. So, and that's what I mean. See, that's why I thought that was sort of iconic. They actually take that and use that, right? Yeah. But then after that song, I don't remember anything until A View to a Kill, which is why, like I said, things like The Man with the Golden Gun, don't know that song. Octopussy, don't know that song.
Right. What was Man with the Golden Gun?
And then
because the songs didn't become as dynamic and important.
Well, it seemingly was. They kept trying to recreate the Goldfinger. Yeah. Oh, we want that Goldfinger experience.
See, they kept trying to
Then it's like, Live and Let Die. I want to recreate that.
Why didn't they have someone like Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston or
exactly.
They had it down.
Because they wanted decent songs by decent singers.
But see, the thing is, they wanted somebody to be able to write and sing the songs at one point. So that's where I understood.
There's the trouble.
Well, also, there is a thing that we're like I don't know where exactly this started, but now every Bond song is designed to top the one from the movie before.
Well, again, but I think isn't that the whole purpose of Bond films?
Right. To top
do you always want to top it? So I get that part, but because I agree with you, because at one point we started talking about Bonds instead of the music, and one thing is I agree that once they went back to Timothy Dalton, right? I like the fact they brought that seriousness back to the Bond films, and that's why I really liked him as one of the Bonds. Except. Okay, don't know any theme songs from his two movies that he did.
No, I don't either.
I couldn't tell you any.
Three. I think he did 3.
I can't even think of any songs from the not Timothy Dalton, the Pierce Brosnan ones. No. You know, I mean, I know the names of the titles of the movies, but I don't know any songs. So
because it wasn't watered down by then.
Well, that's what I'm curious about, because it's not until, like I said, the Daniel Craig movies, and not even Casino Royale, because I don't even remember the song from that.
Right.
But because of the Academy Awards.
What? And now you're going to tell me you don't remember the song from Quantum of Solace? I never thought of that title.
But that's the one that.
That's one of his short stories.
Amy Winehouse was going to perform.
But also, do they just remake the old movies and just with the same title?
No. See, Quantum of Solace is actually a short story of James Bond.
But it's not like remakes of like.
No, that's actually literally a sequel to the Casino Royale. Literally right after the story of the novels Casino Royale. Then he wrote 4 short stories.
So there's been any like 60s movies that have been remade in the same title?
No. In a Casino Royale, quote unquote, has been the only quote unquote remake,
that gave me the
only by title. Literally only by title.
Casino Royale actually was the first James Bond novel too.
Okay, so that gave me the impression. I thought that they were just being remade all the time. I didn't know that's like.
No, in fact, that's why I watched Casino Royale. I thought, I wonder if they're really, because I agree with you. Casino Royale is one of my favorite movies of the 60s.
You guys just like to see a guy from the 60s.
Yeah.
You want to see a guy get his balls smashed.
No,
with a
but see,
tennis
that was the
racket.
thing. Having read the movie or read a novel that I want to watch the movie, it's like, okay, let's see how this all goes out. Now, the music, for example, like I said, I remember the Bond theme possibly, but I don't remember anything about the soundtrack. I don't remember anything about the song.
Me either.
Okay, literally out. But I just said, oh, they really kept true to the novel. That surprised me, right? So it's like, okay. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'll watch the next one. That was Quantum of Solace. And I said, no, I'm not going to watch this movie. And then I haven't watched anything since. So I'm really out of the loop of the music. But I also claim that since you have Sam Smith, Adele, and Billie Eilish, and her brother, if I'm sorry, right? Her brother is also one of the
Is he your brother?
He's her brother.
Phineas.
Yeah, okay.
Phineas.
That they, if I'm not mistaken, they wrote or co-wrote the songs. I don't know if Adele did,
They wrote.
but I thought, oh, that's why I sort of know that. See, they're getting, first of all, well, at least for the first two, because I remember one of them was controversial because they said, no, we want a British singer. Because there's going to be the 50th anniversary, or not the 50th anniversary.
Well, I have a problem with Billie Eilish, but I overlooked it.
Well, see, that's the thing,
it.
because
like Billie
that's why I
Eilish,
keep saying it. Is it has to do with the changing times that you want. Like
Well,
Patty was
surely-
saying, because the '80s was more about new wave and house music and rap,
Right.
and yet there was no rap songs in the
Why,
Bond
no
films,
way.
right?
But there's some
Or
techno.
even that,
There's
yeah.
some.
Well, that's what I said in the '90s, right?
90s,
yeah.
yeah.
See, that's why I probably don't remember it.
With
So-
Pierce Brosnan.
Exactly. See, and that's why I'm saying it's like that's what the music had meant to me. So when I was watching this, I thought, it's entertaining. I was,
Right.
but if you ask me to repeat, what song did Tina Turner? She was in
I
there.
don't even know what
Yeah,
Tina
I-
Turner.
yeah, I
I
don't
love
know.
her.
It was you too. Bono they wrote a song, but they gave it to Tina Turner to sing. And I still.
Oh, okay, that has to be
what
that
was
has to
it?
be one of the Pierce Brosnan movies.
And I don't know. What,
Yeah,
I don't know-
it
I
was
don't know
probably
the
one of the.
But when she
Pierce
sings
Brosnan.
it, you'll know the song. I know the song.
But that's what I'm saying. See, I don't even remember the songs, and if I
No, me
hear them,
either.
I'm sure I wouldn't. But my thing is, see, that's why the music and the songs were never important to me about a Bond film. It was always.
early
I'm
ones.
sorry. To me, it was the chase scenes and the gadgets, and the girls.
Yeah.
That's what I want to
Well,
see in a
to
Bond
me,
film.
think
James
for most
Bond
guys.
is definitely a male. To me, a male
Yeah.
fantasy.
Right. Oh yeah.
You know,
exactly.
I
agree.
I watched
Mhm.
Goldfinger, and I think that's the only one I ever watched. It was like, that's stupid.
It was. I'll tell you something. Back in the 60s, they had a double bill on 42nd Street, which is where I go to see all my movies, of Dr. No and Goldfinger. And I think at this point, the three of them, those two in From Russia with Love, were the only ones that were out.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that held up between Dr. No and Goldfinger was Odd Job.
Oh.
Everything else was just like, what the fuck? What did I see here in the first place? This
Oh,
is-
I'm sorry. From Russia with Love is one of my favorites. I
Well,
did
they
like
did,
that
yeah,
one.
but
Yeah.
and From Russia with Love, they didn't have on that
And
bill. I'm
there's-
talking about
Oh,
those
okay.
two movies.
Oh, okay.
And there's another thing: is the women in the were agents, and they were always
Right.
trying to kill him.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Rosa Cleb.
which
Yeah.
which,
La de
which I
Leña,
really liked.
Yeah.
And
Not the love
then
interest.
they turned around and became love interests. It was like,
Well, they always
Exactly.
were, with the exception of that story. I think they, because they certainly were in Goldfinger and in
Yes.
what's the first one? Dr. No.
Dr. No.
They were just like window dressing that
Right.
you could that he could undress.
But
But
they-
in From Russia with Love, which also has like one of the all-time great fight scenes ever between the two of them on the train. Actually,
Yeah.
two of the greatest fight scenes
Robert
of all
Shaw.
time are
Right.
between those two guys, and that's that one and Robin and Marion.
but let me
Oh,
just
okay.
Let's get to George.
Yeah, let's get to George.
Oh man.
Yeah, we're already at about an hour on this.
I know.
Now that the
That's why
Guinness
I
have
picked
kicked
this.
in.
Yeah.
First of all,
Duran.
the greatest James Bond song of all time is Duran Duran, Habito Kill.
I don't think so, George.
That's it. Done.
Okay, let's start
Let me-
rating it.
You know,
The end.
Okay, let's give it a number.
when I
no,
listen
wait.
to the
You
orchestral,
missed your chance.
when I listen to
No,
the
no.
orchestral suite of them all, the one that stands out to me that I say, "Oh, I missed how good this song was," is "Diamonds Are Forever." When you hear that done by an orchestra, that's amazing.
sure.
That is such a powerful. That
Okay,
just
but we-
repeating.
we have to
Do-
let
do-
Yeah, back to George.
yeah.
So anyway, so film scores are the modern day classical music. Now this kicked in already. So movie scores are the modern days classical music.
Right.
That's what they're incredible.
Yeah, they are.
The James Bond thing reminds me of the Pink Panther. That's another great.
Yeah.
Yes.
We think about
iconic.
A song that defines
Henry
a
Mancini.
movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Is a Pink Panther too. Also, the James Bond movies, it's one of those few movies too where the music also defines the movie. And the other, I was thinking about the movies that do that. It's like Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky has the most amazing score. The Warriors.
Oh yeah,
has
I
an
knew you were
amazing
going to bring
score.
in the Warriors.
But they have an amazing score. The movie has great score. So
Barry
it's a great score. Yes, exactly. I thought, I thought Amy Winehouse would have been a great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would have been.
That would have been probably one of the best James Bond movies because she was old school,
Right.
so she would have been perfect with James Bond. And also I had no idea that all the artists, so many artists that have done this movie that they want to be part of it, and so many crappy ones too.
Yeah.
I thought the movie spent, understandably, too much time on Billie Eilish. Because she's the latest James
Hot
Bond
person.
the hot person.
Yeah.
So of course they want to get seats and
Right.
They want to get viewers, so they're gonna spend a lot of time on her. But I thought you're spending too much time on her. There's so many great artists. Tom Jones.
I was waiting for that.
Duran Duran. I was hoping they could at least give me half hour Duran Duran with Victor Hill. I was like, that's a great song
I was surprised
ever.
how much they did give
because that was
Duran
the first
Duran.
song to be number one on the Billboard charts. And it was number one for so long, and it was only toppled by either Sam Smith or Billy or Adele. So it was number one forever until Sam Smith or Billy.
It's funny. Are you making that your criteria? See, I think that's what went wrong with the Bond songs. Is that to me what it hit on the charts means nothing. It's how it.
But if you watch that, because of the way they write the song too, they wrote a great song, Duran Duran, and then after that it went to techno and pop and everything.
Right.
Because believe me, these guys are great songwriters too.
Yeah, they are.
So they follow the tradition of a great songwriter, and then I don't know, after they just went for selling the song. Pop.
Right.
Yeah.
Making money.
In the 80s, I think that was
But I think that's what happened, George.
And some of the things they said too with the movie was that there's a scene where the guy's writing out people who missed the opportunity that they thought would have been great songwriters for the movie. Prince was one of them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Prince. And then they were upset that Whitney Houston didn't get a chance to sing it either.
Yeah, but she's a typical the singer that with that big voice.
Right. Big voice.
James would have been great.
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
I don't know. I consider Etta James different.
Right.
She's a certain
More
stylized.
There's so many great singers.
But I would say Whitney.
When they went to that,
Amy Winehouse to me would have been like, oh.
But you see, when they went to how high it went on the charts.
Oh yeah, it went
that's
from,
when the shaking started.
Yeah, exactly. It went from a great song for the movie to how much records can we sell and all that.
Right.
That's what killed the
I want to
music.
say this. I want to say this about Billie Eilish. I think that I'm a Billie Eilish fan, and I think that what they were talking about in this movie is that she didn't just sing the theme. She was using her voice throughout the movie to a degree that I said, a movie that I didn't think was a very good movie. I said, oh, I want to hear that. I want to watch it again. And I said, where's her voice? Where's her voice? And I hear them using it at the end. But watching her and her brother create that stuff was very interesting to me. And I thought that she,
There you go.
you could see the enthusiasm she had. Holy Christ, we're going to be doing a James Bond song, and that's what this movie is about, is how much it means to anybody.
Back to George.
It's like the subject of it, which is it's a James Bond movie, is more important than whoever is doing it. It's great if they get somebody in to do it, but the fact is,
it's not more important.
But also, if you talk about Billie Eilish, in that case, I would give the credit to Hans Zimmer,
right?
Because he did Dune. And I actually saw a documentary on how he scored Dune.
No, I like Hans Zimmer, but
Hans Zimmer.
In fact, I think Hans Zimmer actually probably. And see, I have not seen the films he scored, but I thought he would be a
you
good.
saw Rain Man.
No. I'm talking about the Bond films. Yeah, But see, he's an epic.
Oh
film.
yeah, Batman.
Exactly.
So he found a way to use her voice to make it, float through like a ghost through the movie.
Yeah.
So that credit will go for me to him. But yeah.
Which is what I thought was interesting because I thought, again, I don't know Billie Eilish, but hearing her sing the song and how she used her voice, I thought, oh, see, this must be a more sentimental type of Bond film. Because like you said, it's really going into how the song fits the movie.
Because the movie has a particular kind of ending.
should be.
Right.
Yeah,
Should we skirt?
Well, and a particular kind of beginning too. I mean, it's a very melancholy movie.
Like I said,
Unfortunately, they missed a bit. If they wanted to make a female James Bond, they had Ana de Armas stole that fucking movie.
Okay.
You're first. You're first.
I'm going 7.
All right.
Oh, for the documentary, 8.
Oh, I gave it a 4.
Well, I would have given it a 10, but they spent too much time on Billie Eilish. and not enough on Duran Duran. So it's a 6.
Too much time on what?
Billie Eilish. And not enough on Duran Duran.
On John Taylor and Simon Le Bon.
Okay, George, get off the boom, boom, boom.
Oh, wait. Bob's got a rate?
What do you mean? It's his movie.
10. What was you?
I gave it an 8. No, 7. I gave it 7.
We'll be back.